What's up, builders? So today I want to talk about auto-detecting a user's language in the browser setting before they open and interact with a chatbot. When I first started doing this a couple years ago, some of the things that I saw people doing, and even some builds myself, you have almost like a button selection. Hey, what language do you speak? Or try to capture the first response and have prompt settings and all of this stuff. There's a much more sophisticated way of doing this that's just a really clean user experience for anyone interacting with your chatbots I want to showcase to you today. So this is a very basic response. This is actually from an agent template from a platform called Voiceflow. That is what we are going to use today. So let's just jump into this build real quick. I want to show you that I can swap around my language setting in the browser and then get this greeting welcome message to change languages here. I'm going to reset the storage here. So it picked up my browser. So I changed it to Spanish. I got Spanish. If I go to French, let's move French up to the top. Do the same thing again. Clear storage. Bonjour. I'm talking in French. So look, this one even says, I notice your browser settings, you prefer French Canadian, so I'm happy to assist you in French. You prefer to continue in English, just let me know. So this is automatic. I have no instruction. I have nothing inside of the agent that says speak in French, speak in Spanish, speak in English. How does this happen? Okay, so remember the browser contains a lot of good information that we can capture and bring into our chatbots and agents that are deployed live on websites. So most of the platforms out there have some way for you to inject and pass custom payloads into the chatbot on load. Let's take a look at Voiceflow. So Voiceflow has a very standard script tag here, and don't worry about this project ID. I'm going to delete the project after this video. This is the standard script. Boom. Let me put this chatbot on live on my website with this particular project ID, which connects it to this canvas. Now in Voiceflow, in order to inject custom payloads, you have to modify this script tag and pass in a payload here with the launch event. Okay. This is a launch event type payload session data. Now this session data is a particular variable that I am declaring. This is a custom object that I am, if you look at the children inside of session data, language, primary language, navigator.language. So that is a browser specific function that I'm using to grab that particular setting and then pass it into Voiceflow under this payload session data. Okay. And you can see kind of the top of this script is the existing Voiceflow, and really the extra stuff here is right in here. Is this new function where I declare this custom object, what it is, what is the structure, where does it capture the data? I'm logging something to the browser just so I can debug it and make sure it's all coming through. Additional one here. Everything else is traditional Voiceflow script tag. I wanted to make this as simple as possible, but you can imagine have much more sophisticated builds online where we're bringing in all sorts of things from the browser, UTM, Google, tags, all sorts of stuff. So how do I take this payload from session data here and bring it into the Voiceflow build? So if we go here, I have a JavaScript block, and this is right off of start. Remember, it's going to get a launch event, pass a payload. I need to grab it. So if we look inside of this JavaScript step, Last event is a specific Voiceflow syntax, and last event payload exists. Session data. So I have a variable that I've created inside of my Voiceflow project called session data, because it's the same variable name that I initialized in the browser. So I'm just keeping consistency between the browser and my Voiceflow build. Last event dot payload, and then I'm also going to stringify it so I can use the particular object, because if I was to just use session data, you'd see an array of object. All right. And then this is just the template agent from the Voiceflow build. I'll open the instructions in a second, but I want to show you here. Look at this troubleshooting block. So this is just telling me what is the value of session data string. So if I put this into the flow and hit publish, I use this to troubleshoot to make sure that I'm communicating exactly what I'm anticipating between the Voiceflow chatbot build inside of the chatbot and the browser itself. So yes, I already showed you the switching of the languages working, but let's say you were going to try to do this for the first time. You want to make sure what you're passing into the chatbot is actually the correct structure and it makes sense. So I publish this. Let's refresh here. Start a new chat. I should have reset my session. There we go. So this is exactly the value of session data string, where you can see the language, the primary is FR TAC CA, French Canadian. And then I also have all of the languages in here. ES is Spanish, EN TAC US, English US. So this is how the chatbot knows what language my browser is set to. And then you'll see there's some additional things you can tell. I'm on Chrome here. Hello. Using Windows, although I'm about to probably switch to Apple for the majority of my coding stuff. Anyways, you can capture a lot of information here that's useful and pass it through. So how do I incorporate this into the particular prompt? Well, there's a lot of different ways you can go about it, but for this demo purposes, you have access to browser information data, the most important one being languages data stored in variable. Here's the current session, where I put the stringified object in here so the agent can see it. Pay attention to the customer's browser language and chat with them in their language of choice. And just to give it some help and some guidance here, here are some common greetings based on some of the common languages that are spoken around the globe. So I'm queuing up the agent to let them know, hey, you've got this data coming in that's dynamic, that's going to change. Here's how I want you to handle it. If I continue to scroll down, this is just the general conversational support agent template that comes with Voiceflow. Pretty standard stuff in here. And I haven't modified any of the tools knowledge base for this particular demo because I just want to show you what happens. Now let's change this. Now that you'll see French Canadian here, let's go into my browser. Let's delete all of these languages. Remove. I'll keep English. Go ahead and reset. Clear this out. And you'll see that I no longer get any other language but English, because that's the only thing that's sitting in my browser. Hi there, this is Laura from Acme Solutions Customer Support. How can I help you today? And if I go and I add a language, if I add Spanish back in, and I want to move it to the top, reset. Here we go. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien, ¿y tú? There we go. My primary language is in Spanish, and it's showing me all of them. Maybe you want to add some additional functionality that says, hey, I noticed that your browser languages are French and English. Which would you like to continue to speak? Or, whatever. Like, however you want to incorporate this into the user experience for your users on the other end. It's a nice touch, and it's a good flex that you know what you're doing as a builder, because you can take information that's sitting in the browser, and you can customize your agents to build out nice experiences, which is our entire value proposition to the market. So if you're not doing this, let's level up. Let's pass some data into some chatbots and make them really useful, because I can already tell you this type of request, this type of functionality, not necessarily with language specifically, but in general, due to some other things in tracking and data, you're going to get requests like this. So if you don't know how to do this, give it a shot. Pass some stuff into the chatbot, capture it from the browser, push it in, and start using it. Anyways, any questions out there? Hit me up. Happy building out there. Gonna keep it short and sweet today. Talk to you all soon. Peace.